Now, folks, I just want to put this in perspective for you because I'm sure that this has been going on for quite some time. But if you take a look at history, especially over the last 20 years, look at the jump in the amount of antidepressants that are being prescribed in the United States today, and how much depression has taken hold of this country. Now, mind you, there is a lot that has to do with the economy, and that the current situation of our country really isn't favorable. But I will tell you this: back when times were good, people were being put on antidepressants in droves, and it's no different today. And one has to wonder if this doesn't have something to do with that.
Well, Joe, they test all sorts of vaccines and quote-unquote medications and everything else on people. They do have to have human test subjects. And a lot of times people say, but Popeye, come on, people sign up. Yeah, but it's called informed consent. They're not fully told what they're testing. You know, it's like when you see these kids or even adults that, teenagers or adults that they sign up to these clinics and stuff, and they test drugs and they get paid like $200 or $300.
Yeah.
What do you think that is? That's human testing.
Right.
Do you think they're telling those people? They ask them, let us know what kind of side effects you have. They don't tell them what to expect.
And what's funny that you say that, because today the American Medical Association, if you go and look at the American Medical Association blog, folks, you'll find quite often throughout this blog that they talk about mandatory vaccinations, because they're having problems finding people now that will do this. They're running out of people to do this. They can't gather scientific data or credible scientific data on these vaccines. So what they're saying is, in the American Medical Association blog, they're saying that perhaps we should go to a system similar to military conscription, whereby people are mandatorily, let's just say, drafted to test a vaccine for the common good of society, regardless of, who cares about your personal safety or risks? You know what I mean? All that aside, you're doing it for the good of the whole, baby, of the collective. So you know what? Shoot 'em up. You know what, bartender? Make it a double. I'm feeling lucky today. And here's the problem, is that you've got the Department of Health and Human Services going along with this. So let me bring this up, because this is very important. And if you have children, you should be extremely concerned about this. But this was a letter that Kathleen Sebelius wrote to Amy Gutmann, who's the chair of this presidential commission, on January 6th of 2012. And they are all appointed by Obama. So here we go. It says the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services is responsible for developing and stockpiling safe and effective medical countermeasures to protect the nation from bioterror attacks. While it has made significant progress towards this goal for adults, the development of appropriate medical countermeasures for children lags in part due to challenges. Remember that word, folks. Challenges in collecting basic dose and immunogenicity studies in pediatric populations. So on October 28th, 2011, the Health and Human Services National Biodefense Science Board released its report and recommendation on the challenges in use of anthrax vaccines adsorbed in the pediatric population as a component of post-exposure prophylaxis. Now, folks, look this up. Look that report up. That's the NBSB's report, and it's titled Challenges in the Use of Anthrax Vaccines Adsorbed in the Pediatric Population as a Component of Post-Exposure Prophylaxis. And read the report, because your jaw will drop. The NBSB debated how best to obtain scientifically valid safety and immunogenicity data about AVA-PEP for children a complex issue with ethical, scientific, medical, legal, regulatory, and administrative challenges. And a partridge in a pear tree. In the recommendation, the NBSB concludes that it would be in the best interests of children to gather safety and immunogenicity data about the anthrax vaccine prior to an anthrax event, rather than during a future crisis when the vaccine may be needed. Because God forbid, folks, let's stop here for a second. Let's make one thing abundantly clear. There are only a few places in the world that can make a weaponized form of anthrax. So the first thing that you need to understand is that these people that get shipped this white powder in an envelope is complete and total horse crap. It's crap.
There's no way that some, moron in a cave could refine anthrax down to the size specifically needed to be weaponized. It's impossible for people to buy this crap. It just goes to show you that the general public doesn't pay attention, Joe, and that they're willing to believe what the government tells them.
Right. So if there is going to be some sort of event like this on our soil that's so widespread and affects so many people, the only way that's going to happen, folks, to be quite honest with you, is if our government does it to us ourselves, which, as we know, because the Bioethics Committee has already said out in the open that they test stuff on us without our consent, would now this be above any sort of expectation? Is it unbelievable at this point? And the answer clearly is no. And so what they're pushing for now in this arena, and I'm sure they're going to have a meeting on this at some point in time, is, let's see, is it ethical to test this stuff on children, considering, all this and all the informed consent thing? Maybe we should get around that. Is it ethical to do that? I mean, is there a debate here, dude? Really?
No, there's no debate, Joe. And this isn't new, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I suggest you all do your homework and see what's going on here, because this is something that's been going on for a very long time. I mean, I'm talking about going back, to World War II,
right,
at the very least, that we know about.
That's right.
Remember, we used to have really whacked out eugenics laws in this country, Joe. A lot of people forget American history. They hear eugenics, they go, God, what kind of barbaric people would do such things? We did, right here in the United States of America. Right up until the early 1900s, I may add. Okay?
That's right.
Right into the early 20, the beginning of the 20th century, we were doing some of this crap. And by the way, we're still doing it. You're just not told about it. Remember the Tuskegee Airmen, Joe, that were the all-black Army Air Force? Well, I don't want to say Army Air Force. Army Air Corps is what they were known as, because the Air Force didn't exist back then. And they were given syphilis. These guys were, fighter pilots. They flew for their country. They were active duty and, later on veterans, but these guys there was nothing different about them than anybody else, except they were black. So racism, again, with the elites, and these guys, they were chosen, against their will, I shouldn't even say
not
against
even
their will. Yeah, without their consent. Again,
right,
without informed consent, and they were given shots, and some of them got sick and died.
Right, and then in the 1940s, you had the STD experiments down in Guatemala, where people were just given STDs without their consent. Oh yeah, let's just use them as a controlled study. I mean, you're talking about people, human beings.
And you know who's behind a lot of this that funds it? And you can research this yourself, ladies and gentlemen. The Rockefeller family.
Oh, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, yes.
Yep. You'll see that they actually did that in Puerto Rico.
And if you think it's a conspiracy, folks, if you think that this is a conspiracy, you would be correct. It is most certainly a conspiracy. The only thing that's missing from that is theory. There's no theory here, because everything that we're telling you today comes directly from the horse's mouth. If you need to go and look this stuff up, by all means, let your journey begin at bioethics.gov, where you have a treasure trove of information at your fingertips and just go from there. Dive down the rabbit hole and find out exactly what's been going on, not just now, but like Popeye said, for the last 100 years or so. And you're going to come to find out that things really aren't as rosy as you might think, that life isn't as good as you might think, that it could be, perhaps, 180 degrees out of phase from what you think it is. So it's time to open your eyes and wake up and fight back. Don't allow this to happen anymore, especially for your children. Just remember, folks, how bad is it now? How bad do you think it's going to be when your children are older and grow up? Can you possibly fathom it? I know I can't. Popeye?
Well, I don't have kids myself, but I do this for all the people that do have children. I don't want to leave the future generations a police state and just this utter mess that I don't want to say inherited, but the baby boomer generation had the chance to stop this, and because they were so mesmerized and brainwashed, they didn't. And now it's our generation's turn to stand up and stop this, because if we don't, we are going to, without a doubt, leave the next generation a complete and utter dystopian police state. And
that's right.
I can't in good conscience do that.
No.
So if I can do one thing and leave my mark in this world, it will be to stop the New World Order dead in its tracks and bury it 6 feet under permanently, never to rise again, ever.
Amen to that. Amen to that, bro. So, folks, pay attention. Tune in to Orion Talk Radio, to Down the Rabbit Hole with Popeye, on Wednesdays and Fridays from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m., and Sundays from 5 to 7 p.m., and then Freedom Link Radio on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, 10 p. to 12 a, and Sundays from 7 p. to 9 p.m. And go to the Intel Hub for your news and information, as we will be tracking this stuff and giving you any updates onto this. Remember, the next meeting is next week. Today is the 28th of January. On the 2nd and 3rd of February, they're having another meeting, and this meeting is on the privacy of the human genome. Do you have the right to privacy regarding your genetic structure? That's the question. So, folks, stay tuned, pay attention, and anything else to add there, Popeye?
Well, I just want the people to, this isn't a science fiction novel. This is real. This is happening today in front of you.
Yes.
And if you don't stand up and do something, it's going to get worse. I mean, I know it's scary, but what if you don't do anything? If you think this is bad, if you don't do anything, it's going to be 1,000 times worse. So, if this bothers you, then not doing something and the prospect of what is going to come out of that should really scare the crap out of you. So I urge you guys and women, both listeners, to go and educate yourselves. So please go to the intelhub.com, go to federaljack.com, go to oriontalkradio.com, and educate yourself. Listen to the shows, read the articles, copy them, start your own website, do link backs, make YouTube videos, get out there with a bullhorn, hand out DVDs, do something, stand up and fight this, because, all these movies we watched as a kid growing up, when I was a kid anyway, they're all coming true. Stuff that we were like, that'll never happen in this country. We're the United States of America. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's here. So it's time to stand up and fight. Thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.